Hey everybody, welcome on back. Last class, you kind of wrapped up a little bit of a check-in on Castle Learning for your Unit 6, kind of the transformation of Western Europe and Russia, kind of looking at Europe during the Renaissance, the Protestant Reformation, Scientific Revolution, and the Age of Absolutism. Today we're going to kind of shift our focus a little bit more and kind of branch out. We're going to be starting Unit number 7, which is going to be focusing on sort of what's going on in Africa during this time period, during the 1500s and so on, and what's going on in the Americas. So we'll start to take a look at sort of the interactions between Afro-Eurasia, Africa, Europe, and Asia, and the Americas. So I want you to think about really quickly what you remember about our study of the continent of Africa. You probably remember looking at Mali, Mansa Musa, and the gold and salt trade in the Sahara Desert, the camel caravans. That's really focused on Western Europe. Today we're going to be, Western Africa. Today we're going to be focused on specifically Eastern Africa and the participation of this region, like the Kingdom of Aksum and even the Swahili city-states, in the Indian Ocean trade and the importance of these cities and these kingdoms on trade in the Indian Ocean. So the last thing I want to kind of refresh your memory on, we talked a little bit about Ghana and a lot about Mali, but the largest of the three major West African kingdoms was Songhai. And Songhai took control after the collapse of Mali, controlling the city of Timbuktu. And Timbuktu was a really influential trading city, right? It had mosques, it had Islamic architecture and universities. So it was really, really an important city to control if you wanted to be an economic and political power in West Africa. And Songhai was able to use the city of Timbuktu to expand trade to Europe and into Asia through the connection on the trans-Saharan trade routes, and it became a time of great cultural diffusion. Okay? We do see the creation of a high-functioning bureaucracy within Songhai, and they had 5 provinces. Think of them almost as like states, kind of broken down, and each province had a governor, a tax collector, judges, and trade inspectors. So sort of a bureaucracy, think of that as sort of like a government that has different departments or different divisions that can do tasks like collecting taxes, making laws, things of that nature. So bureaucracies are really, really important towards being able to run a large empire and effectively control your empire. All right, so shifting our focus east, if you take a look on this map, we're going to take a look at the Kingdom of Aksum. So Aksum was a little bit different than what we see kind of occurring at this time in sort of northern Africa. So their main religion was Christianity. And Christianity was made the official religion of Aksum due to shipwrecked Syrians who had introduced it. But the view of Christianity was very, very different than what we see in sort of traditional European Christianity. In Egypt and Aksum, we see sort of the idea that Jesus was completely divine and not human, but 100% godlike. Right? So this is a little bit different. So we can kind of see this element of taking a belief system and adapting it or changing it a little bit depending upon your cultural values. We do see the emergence of a new Christian church, the Coptic Church. But eventually we will see Islam brought into Aksum as a result of Muslim traders. And if you take a look and you see the location of Aksum here, you can see it's located very closely to the Arabian Peninsula, which was the place of origin for Islam. So by interacting with Muslim traders, we do start to see the introduction of Islam. In order to ensure that Islam did not spread into Aksum, the government reorganized to extend into outlying areas and really building up of Catholic and Christian, I shouldn't say Catholic, I should say Christian churches. So kind of establishing Christianity as a strong religion of this empire. What Aksum was probably most known for was the use of stone instead of mud and bricks to construct buildings, which is very unique for this portion of the world when most buildings were traditionally crafted out of mud bricks. But using stone to create these large, what's called stelae, or these obelisk-shaped pillars, were built to celebrate the king's conquest and to assert the dominance of Aksum in this region. And you can kind of see an example of some of these pillars that were used to show, the extent to which the Empire of Aksum was able to extend and assert their authority to. So today you're going to examine a little bit more in detail these East African city-states. You'll look briefly at the Swahili region, also a little bit more at Aksum, and kind of their participation on the Indian Ocean Trade Network. I do have a couple of videos here for you, and you're going to find all of this in folder 7.1, the same folder that you're looking at right now. And then we'll kind of continue to take a look at the interaction between these city-states, the Atlantic trade, the Indian Ocean trade, and the far-reaching consequences of these developments.